She was 4 days old when they brought her home. Buddy had never left her side. What the pediatrician found 3 days later explained every single hour of it. The first thing Saoirse Kelly noticed when they brought baby Fiona home from the hospital was that Buddy did something he had never done in 6 years. He stopped, sleeping on his bed. He walked to wherever they placed Fiona, lay down beside her, and stayed there. If they moved her to the bouncy seat, Buddy moved. If they carried her to the bedroom, Buddy followed and lay on the floor directly below where she was placed. If they set her in the bassinet for a nap, Buddy curled on the rug alongside it, his chin at bassinet level, and watched. Saoirse thought this was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. She photographed it. She sent the photographs to her mother. She sent them to her husband's family. Everyone said, "Oh, he loves her already." Everyone was correct, but not in the way they meant. Fiona had been discharged from the hospital with a bilirubin level that the neonatologist had characterized as borderline, within the acceptable threshold for a healthy full-term infant, but flagged for a follow-up check in 3 to 5 days. Standard newborn jaundice, common, usually self-resolving. Saoirse had been told to watch for yellowing of the skin and eyes. She had been told what to look for. She had not been told that what she was looking for could be hard to see in certain light conditions, in certain skin tones. In the first days when you are running on no sleep and looking at your child through a lens of relief and exhaustion and overwhelming love, Buddy had no such lens. On the second day at home, Saoirse noticed Buddy was doing something in addition to staying beside Fiona. He was pressing his nose to the top of her head, the fontanelle, the soft spot, and the crook of her neck and the back of her hands. Not constantly, in intervals, patient, deliberate, returning to the same points on her body at intervals throughout the day. She thought, he's memorizing her. She thought, this is how they bond, through scent. She was right about the scent. She was wrong about what he was memorizing. On the third day, Fiona was fussier than she had been, slightly harder to wake for feedings, slightly less vigorous in the latch. Saoirse had noted it. She attributed it to the adjustment period, the first full days home, the normal fluctuation of a newborn's rhythms. Buddy pressed his nose to Fiona's chest and held it for 11 seconds. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. On the morning of day 4 at home, Saoirse's mother came to help and looked at Fiona in the pink blanket in the morning light and said, "Is she yellow?" Saoirse looked. In the morning light from the east-facing window, what had not been visible in the living room lamp light the night before was clearly visible now. Fiona's skin had the subtle golden yellow cast of jaundice. Her sclera, the whites of her eyes, had a visible yellow tinge. Saoirse called the pediatrician and was told to come in immediately. Fiona's bilirubin level at the pediatric office was 19.2 milligrams per deciliter. The threshold at which phototherapy, bilirubin light treatment, is typically initiated in a healthy newborn is around 17 to 18 milligrams per deciliter, depending on age and hours. Fiona's level was above that threshold and rising. She was admitted directly to the hospital for phototherapy. Dr. Monica Przybylski, neonatologist, oversaw Fiona's admission. She sat with Saoirse and explained what had been happening. Bilirubin had been accumulating in Fiona's system since discharge. Gradually but measurably, the symptoms that parents are taught to watch for, visible yellowing of skin and eyes, appear later in the progression than the internal biochemical changes. The smell changes first. Bilirubin, as it accumulates in the blood and tissue, produces a characteristic odor profile, detectable at parts per billion concentrations by a dog's olfactory system. A dog positioned beside a newborn with rising bilirubin would detect the change in the infant's overall scent profile before any visible symptom appeared. Dr. Przybylski told Saoirse, "The fact that you noticed the change this quickly and came in today is exactly what we want. Another 12 to 24 hours, and we would have been managing this more aggressively." She asked what made Saoirse pay such close attention. Saoirse thought about 6 years of a dog who slept on his bed without exception. She thought about 72 hours of Buddy leaving it. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Fiona was under the phototherapy lights for 31 hours. Saoirse sat beside the bassinet in the hospital room and thought about 4 days at home, Buddy mapping her daughter's body at intervals through the day, pressing his nose to the fontanelle, the neck, the hands, the places where surface vessels run closest to the skin, where the bilirubin-saturated blood would carry its signal most clearly to whatever was reading it. He had not been memorizing Fiona. He had been monitoring her. He had been running a blood panel with the only instrument he had. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Fiona came home on a Tuesday. Her levels had dropped to 9.4 milligrams per deciliter. The color in her skin had cleared. She latched fiercely and ate for 20 minutes without stopping. Saoirse carried her through the door and set her down in the same pink blanket in the same spot in the living room. Buddy was there before she had straightened up. He pressed his nose to Fiona's forehead, held it for 4 seconds, then lifted his head and lay down beside her. He did not check the fontanelle again. He did not map her hands. He lay down with his chin on the blanket's edge and closed his eyes. Whatever had been changing in his data for 4 days had resolved. The number he had been reading was within range. He was done. Saoirse sat on the floor beside them. She just sat there for a long time with her daughter and her dog, and what she now understood about the 72 hours she had spent believing this was about love. It was about love. She just hadn't understood what the love was doing. What did your dog do with your newborn that you only understood later? Tell us below.